The worst part about finding a hidden camera in your bedroom isn't the camera, it's realizing someone wanted to watch you without you knowing. I used to think people online exaggerated those kinds of stories. You hear about hidden cameras in hotels or Airbnbs and assume it could never happen in your own house, especially not in the same bedroom you grew up in. But 3 weeks ago, at exactly 2:17 in the morning, I woke up and realized I had been wrong about a lot of things. I couldn't sleep that night. The house felt strange in a way I couldn't explain. My mom's place always had noises because it was old. Pipes ticking inside the walls, the air conditioner rattling every few minutes, tree branches scraping the roof whenever the wind picked up. But that night felt different. Too quiet somehow. I remember staring at the ceiling, trying to fall back asleep, when I noticed a tiny red light blinking near my bookshelf across the room. At first I honestly thought it was my smoke detector reflecting off something. I even rolled over and ignored it for a minute. But then I noticed the pattern. Blink. Pause. Blink blink. Pause. It was deliberate. Rhythmic. Like it was alive. I sat up slowly and stared at the corner of my room. The digital clock beside my bed read 2:17 a.m. The red light disappeared for a second, then came back again. My stomach tightened immediately. I don't know why. Maybe instinct. Maybe because deep down, before my brain caught up, part of me already knew something was wrong. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The room looked normal. My dresser. My desk. The pile of unfolded laundry I'd ignored for 2 days. But when I pointed the light toward the bookshelf, I saw it tucked behind a framed photo of me and my dad from when I was 12. A tiny black object no bigger than a golf ball. The red light blinked again. I froze. For a second I genuinely couldn't process what I was looking at. Then my chest went cold. It was a camera. I walked toward it slowly, like getting closer would somehow change what it was. Maybe a sensor. Maybe some weird electronic thing my mom bought online. But the closer I got, the worse the feeling became. The lens was facing directly toward my bed. I remember my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. My first thought was that someone had broken into the house. My second thought was somehow even worse. What if it had always been there? I pulled the device off the shelf and turned it over in my hands. It was warm. Not hot, but warm enough to tell me it was on. Active. Working. There was a tiny sticker on the bottom with a serial number scratched halfway off. No brand name. No label. Just a small slot for a memory card and a blinking blue symbol I didn't recognize. Then I noticed something that made my skin crawl. There was no battery pack attached. Which meant it wasn't just recording. It was connected to power somewhere inside my room. I looked around slowly, suddenly feeling exposed in my own bedroom. My eyes landed on the extension cord behind my dresser. A thin black cable disappeared behind it and ran upward toward the shelf. Whoever installed the camera had hidden the wire carefully. Carefully enough that I had never noticed it before. And that's when the thought hit me so hard I actually stopped breathing for a second. Someone had installed this without me knowing. Not recently. Not quickly. They took time doing it. Which meant whoever put it there had access to the house. Access to my room. I should have called the police immediately. I know that now. But instead, I made the mistake that changed everything. I walked downstairs to ask my mother about it. The stairs creaked under my feet as I went downstairs, gripping the camera so tightly my fingers hurt. Every light in the house was off except the small lamp above the stove in the kitchen. My mother always left that light on overnight because she said a completely dark house made her anxious. Normally it felt comforting. That night it made the entire first floor look wrong somehow, like I was walking through somebody else's home pretending it still belonged to my family. I found my mom asleep on the couch beneath a blanket with the television muted in front of her. She had been falling asleep there ever since my father disappeared 14 years ago. She claimed the silence upstairs bothered her too much. At the time, I never questioned it. Now every little habit suddenly felt suspicious. Mom. My voice came out sharper than I intended. She startled awake immediately, breathing hard like I had pulled her out of a nightmare. For half a second, before she fully opened her eyes, she looked terrified. Then she saw me standing there. Emily, she whispered. What is wrong? I held up the camera. What is this? The color drained from her face so fast it honestly scared me. Not confusion. Not shock. Recognition. She knew exactly what I was holding before I even stepped closer. And that moment changed something inside me permanently because mothers are not supposed to react like that. If your daughter walks downstairs at 2 in the morning holding a hidden camera from her bedroom, you are supposed to panic. You are supposed to ask questions. Instead, my mother just stared at it in silence for 3 or 4 long seconds. Then she sat up slowly and rubbed her hands together. Where did you find that? She asked quietly. My stomach dropped. Not what is that? Not where did it come from? Where did you find that? In my room, I said. Behind my bookshelf. Her eyes closed briefly. I could actually see her thinking. Calculating. Mom. My voice cracked this time. Why do you not seem surprised? She stood up too quickly and reached for the camera. Let me see it. I pulled it back instinctively. No, the room became painfully quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming behind us. Outside, rain tapped softly against the kitchen windows. My mother crossed her arms tightly like she was cold. Emily, she said carefully, it is probably old. I stared at her. Old? Your Uncle Mark installed security equipment around the house years ago after your father left. Security equipment does not point directly at my bed. She looked away immediately. That was the first moment I realized she was lying to me. Not because of what she said, but because my mother had a tell she never knew about. Whenever she lied, she touched the necklace she wore every day. A thin silver chain with her wedding ring attached to it. Her hand moved toward it now without her realizing. Mom, I said slowly. How long has that camera been there? I do not know. Lie. Does Uncle Mark know about this? Emily, you are overreacting. Another lie. I could feel panic turning into anger inside me. There are videos on this thing. Her face snapped toward me instantly. Too fast. Way too fast. What do you mean? She asked. I mean it is recording. Probably for years. She swallowed hard. I suddenly remembered all the times over the last few months when she insisted on cleaning my room while I was at work. All the times she entered without knocking. All the moments I ignored because she was my mother. My chest tightened so hard it hurt to breathe. Who is watching me? I whispered. She stepped closer immediately. No one is watching you. Then why is there a live camera in my bedroom? She opened her mouth but never answered. Instead, her eyes flicked briefly toward the dark hallway leading to the basement door. It lasted less than a second. Most people would not have noticed it. But I did. And somehow, in that exact moment, I knew 2 things for certain. My mother had known about the camera the entire time. And whatever she was hiding was downstairs. My mother noticed me looking toward the basement door and immediately stepped sideways like she was trying to block my view without making it obvious. That alone told me more than anything she had said so far. The basement had been locked almost my entire life. When I was little, my father used it as a workshop for home repairs and woodworking projects. After he disappeared, my mother stopped going down there completely. She always said it reminded her too much of him. I never questioned that either. Suddenly I was questioning everything. What is in the basement? I asked. Nothing. Her answer came too quickly. Then unlock it. Emily, it is almost 3 in the morning. Unlock the door. Her face tightened in a way I had never seen before. Not sadness. Not fear exactly. More like exhaustion. Like someone carrying a secret too heavy for too long. You need to calm down, she whispered. Do not tell me to calm down. My voice echoed through the kitchen harder than I intended. I looked back down at the camera in my hands. And felt sick all over again. There is a hidden camera in my bedroom and you are acting like this is normal. It was never supposed to happen this way. The second she said it, silence filled the room. My entire body went cold. I stared at her. What does that mean? She realized immediately she had said too much. Nothing. Mom. I am tired, Emily. Who installed it? She looked toward the hallway again. You are asking questions that are going to upset you. I am already upset. For a second I thought she might finally tell me the truth. Her eyes watered slightly and her shoulders dropped like she was about to give up hiding whatever this was. But then headlights swept across the front windows from outside and everything changed. My mother stiffened instantly. I turned toward the driveway just as a dark SUV pulled up in front of the house. My stomach tightened. Who is that? I asked. She did not answer. The engine shut off. A few seconds later, someone knocked softly at the front door. Not the kind of knock a stranger makes. The kind of knock from someone who has been there many times before. 3 slow taps. My mother looked terrified now. Actually terrified. Mom, I whispered, who is here? She walked past me quickly toward the front entrance. I followed her. Through the frosted glass beside the door, I could make out the silhouette of a tall man standing on the porch wearing a dark jacket despite the warm weather. My mother opened the door only halfway. You should not be here right now, she whispered sharply. The man glanced past her and saw me standing in the hallway holding the camera. The expression on his face changed immediately. Not surprise. Concern. Like something had gone wrong earlier than expected. He was probably in his early 60s with gray hair and tired eyes. I had never seen him before in my life. Emily, my mother said quickly, this is Daniel. Daniel looked at me carefully for several seconds before speaking. You found it. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. You knew about this too? He rubbed his jaw nervously and looked toward my mother. Linda, do not, she snapped quietly. That single moment told me. They had discussed this before. Many times. Somebody better start explaining what is happening, I said. Daniel stepped inside slowly and closed the door behind him. Rainwater dripped from his jacket onto the hardwood floor. Emily, he said carefully, the camera was never meant to hurt you. Then what was it meant for? Neither of them answered immediately. Instead, Daniel looked directly at the device in my hands. Is it still connected? He asked. My mother's face went pale again. What does that mean? I whispered. Daniel took a slow breath before answering. It means if the light is still blinking, someone else may already know you found it. The blinking red light suddenly felt heavier in my hand, like the tiny device had become something alive. I looked down at it again and noticed the blue symbol pulsing faintly near the memory card slot. Daniel stepped closer immediately. Do not touch anything else on it, he said. Why? I asked. Because if it is still transmitting, whoever has access to the feed may know exactly what room we are standing in right now. My mother shut the front curtains so fast the metal rings scraped loudly across the rod. Her breathing had become shallow and uneven. I had never seen her like this before. Not even after my father disappeared. Okay, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. Someone needs to explain why you are both acting like we are being watched. Daniel exchanged another look with my mother. It was the kind of silent communication people only develop after years of shared secrets. Emily, my mother whispered, you need to trust me. I actually laughed at that. A sharp, disbelieving laugh that sounded strange even to me. Trust you? There was a hidden camera in my bedroom. It was not supposed to stay there this long. Then why did it? Neither of them answered. That silence was becoming more terrifying than actual answers. Daniel finally took a slow breath and motioned toward the kitchen table. Sit down, he said carefully. No, Emily. I am not sitting down until somebody tells me what is happening. My mother pressed her palms against the counter like she was trying to steady herself. 14 years ago, she began quietly, after your father disappeared. Do not say disappeared like he just wandered off, I snapped. He abandoned us. The words came out automatically because that was the story I had lived with my whole life. My father left one morning when I was 16 and never came back. No note. No phone call. No body. Nothing. My mother spent years telling me he had debts, stress, emotional problems. Eventually everyone stopped talking about him completely. Daniel looked at me carefully. Your father did not abandon you. The room went completely silent. Even the rain outside seemed quieter somehow. I stared at him. What? My mother closed her eyes immediately like she had hoped this moment would never come. Daniel, she whispered. She deserves the truth, he replied softly. I looked between them, my pulse hammering inside my ears. Who are you? I asked him. I worked with your father. Worked where? Another hesitation. Private security. That answer somehow made everything feel worse instead of better. What does that have to do with a camera in my room? Daniel rubbed both hands over his face. He looked exhausted. Your father became involved in something dangerous before he vanished. Dangerous how? He believed someone was trying to recover information he had hidden. What information? We do not know. My mother suddenly spoke up. Your father became paranoid near the end. Daniel looked at her sharply but did not interrupt. He thought people were watching the house, she continued. He installed security equipment everywhere. I held up the camera. In my bedroom? Her eyes filled with tears instantly. Not for the reason you think. Then explain it to me. She opened her mouth but froze when a sudden sound came from upstairs. 3 soft creaks directly above us. My bedroom floor. Every person in the kitchen went still. Daniel's expression changed immediately. Alert. Focused. He turned slowly toward the ceiling. Another creak followed. Not pipes. Not the house settling. Footsteps. My mother grabbed my arm so tightly it hurt. Emily, she whispered, barely audible, did you lock your bedroom door after you found the camera? My stomach dropped because I suddenly realized I had not. For 3 or 4 seconds, nobody moved. The entire house felt frozen around us. I could hear the rain outside, the refrigerator humming behind me, even the faint ticking of the kitchen clock above the stove. Then another creak came from upstairs. Slow. Careful. Like someone shifting their weight across my bedroom floor. Daniel reacted first. He moved toward the hallway and lowered his voice immediately. Stay here. Absolutely not, I whispered back. My mother still had her hand locked around my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin. Emily, please. There is somebody upstairs. Daniel glanced toward the staircase. We do not know that yet. But his face said otherwise. He knew exactly how bad this could be. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a flashlight. The movement alone made my pulse spike because normal people do not carry tactical flashlights at 3 in the morning. Daniel, my mother said quietly, maybe we should call the police. He looked at her with disbelief. And tell them what? She did not answer. That silence told me everything. There were things they still were not saying. Dangerous things. Daniel started up the staircase slowly, one hand gripping the railing, the other holding the flashlight low against the wall. I followed before either of them could stop me. Emily, my mother hissed. No, but I kept going. Every step upstairs felt heavier than the last. The old wooden stairs groaned beneath our feet, making the silence worse somehow. My bedroom door stood partially open at the end of the hallway. I knew for a fact I had left it wide open earlier after removing the camera. Now it sat cracked open just enough for darkness to spill through the gap. Daniel stopped halfway down the hall. Did you leave it like that? He whispered. No, my voice barely came out. He pushed the door open slowly with 2 fingers. The room looked normal at first glance. Bed. Desk. Closet. Nothing moving. But then I noticed the bookshelf immediately. The framed photo beside where the camera had been was lying face down on the floor. My stomach dropped. Somebody had touched it. Daniel swept the flashlight carefully around the room. Hello, he called out firmly. No answer. My mother appeared behind us, clutching her robe tightly around herself. Oh my God, she whispered. I walked farther into the room before Daniel could stop me. The window above my desk was open about 6 inches. Rain drifted lightly through the screen onto the carpet below. It was closed earlier, I said. Daniel moved quickly toward it and looked outside into the darkness. The backyard was empty except for trees swaying in the wind. Could somebody have come through there? I asked. Not likely, he said. 2nd floor. Then his flashlight stopped on something near my bed. A small black object lying on the blanket. My heart nearly stopped because for one horrible second I thought it was another camera. Daniel picked it up carefully. It was an earpiece. Tiny. Wireless. The kind security guards use. Someone was here, he said quietly. My mother looked physically ill now. No, she whispered. That is not possible. Apparently it is. I looked around my room differently after that. Every shadow felt wrong. Every object suddenly seemed unfamiliar. Then Daniel crouched beside the outlet behind my dresser where the camera cable had been connected. Emily, he said slowly, when you removed the camera, did you unplug this? No, he pointed the flashlight directly at the outlet. The cable had been cut cleanly. Freshly cut. Whoever came upstairs knew exactly what they were looking for. My mother suddenly backed into the hallway like she could not breathe. He found us, she whispered. I turned toward her instantly. Who found us? Tears rolled down her face as she shook her head. I told your father this would happen. Daniel stood up sharply. Linda. But she kept staring at the cut wire like she had seen a ghost. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. The camera was never supposed to watch you, Emily. She looked directly at me, trembling. It was supposed to warn us when somebody came back. The words hit me harder than anything else that night. The camera was not watching me. It was waiting for someone. I stared at my mother, trying to process what she had just said, but nothing about it made sense. What are you talking about? I asked. My voice sounded thin and shaky now. Daniel stepped between us slightly. We should not do this up here. No, I snapped immediately. No more half explanations. No more secrets. Somebody was just inside my room. My mother looked toward the open window again like she expected someone to still be standing outside in the rain. Emily, she whispered, your father believed something was hidden in this house. You said he was paranoid. I said that because it was easier. Easier. That word almost made me angry enough to scream. Easier for who? Easier for her? Easier for me? 14 years of lies wrapped inside one simple word. Daniel picked up the framed photograph from the floor and placed it carefully back on the shelf. I noticed him staring at the picture for an extra second before setting it down. It was me and my father at a county fair the summer before he vanished. I remembered that day clearly because he kept checking over his shoulder the entire time like he expected someone to be following us. At the time I thought he was distracted from work stress. Now every memory felt poisoned with new meaning. What was hidden here? I asked. Daniel hesitated. We never found out. Then how do you know somebody came back for it? He looked directly at the cut camera wire. Because they just risked entering the house to disable surveillance. The room suddenly felt too small. Too warm. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried to think clearly. Okay, I said slowly. Start from the beginning. My mother sat down carefully on the edge of my bed like her legs could barely hold her anymore. A few months before your father disappeared, she said quietly, he became convinced someone inside his company stole sensitive information. What kind of information? Names. Financial records. Security contracts. I never knew everything. Daniel spoke next. Your father found something he was not supposed to find. And because of that he disappeared? Neither of them answered immediately. That silence told me enough. My chest tightened. You think somebody took him? My mother looked down at her hands. I think your father knew he was in danger long before he vanished. Rain continued tapping softly against the open window. The sound suddenly reminded me of another night years ago. Thunder outside. Raised voices downstairs. My father pacing through the hallway carrying boxes into the basement while my mother cried in the kitchen. The memory flashed through my head so suddenly it made me dizzy. The basement, I whispered. Daniel looked at me sharply. What about it? That night before Dad disappeared, he was moving things down there. My mother's face went completely pale. Emily, another memory surfaced immediately after. Me standing halfway down the stairs at 16 years old hearing my father say something quietly to my mother. If anything happens, do not let her remember. The words hit me so clearly I actually stumbled backward. Daniel noticed instantly. What is wrong? I stared at both of them in shock. What did he mean by that? Mean by what? My mother asked carefully. Dad said something before he disappeared. Her breathing stopped completely. What did you just say? I pressed my fingers against my temple as fragments of memory pushed forward harder now. My father locking the basement door. My mother crying. Me standing in the hallway while somebody shouted downstairs. Then another image flashed across my mind so suddenly it made my stomach twist. A man standing in our kitchen that I did not recognize. Tall. Wearing dark gloves. Watching me. I grabbed the edge of my desk to steady myself. Emily? Daniel stepped closer carefully. I whispered, I think I have seen someone inside this house before. My mother looked like she might collapse after I said that. Her face had completely lost color and her eyes filled instantly with panic. Emily, she whispered carefully, what exactly do you remember? I pressed my hand harder against my temple. The memory was slipping away again the harder I tried to hold on to it. Just fragments. The kitchen light. Rain outside. A tall man standing near the hallway while my father argued with someone downstairs. I do not know, I admitted. It is blurry. Daniel exchanged a tense look with my mother. That is not possible, she whispered. You said she never saw him. I thought she did not. The room suddenly felt colder. Who did I see? I asked. Neither of them answered quickly enough. Who did I see? I repeated louder this time. My mother stood up from the bed slowly, her hands trembling. After your father disappeared, she said quietly, you stopped talking about that night completely. What night? The last night he was here. My chest tightened. You told me he left while I was at school. Tears rolled down her face immediately. I lied. That word barely even shocked me anymore. It felt like every memory from my childhood was quietly being rewritten in front of me piece by piece. Daniel walked toward the bedroom door and checked the hallway before lowering his voice again. Your father did not leave during the day, he said. He vanished during the storm that night. Another flash hit me suddenly. Thunder shaking the windows. My father kneeling in front of me in the hallway with both hands on my shoulders. His face looked terrified, but he kept trying to smile for me anyway. If anything strange happens, he told me softly, you stay upstairs and lock your door. Understand? I actually staggered backward as the memory returned. Oh my God. My mother grabbed my arm. What do you remember? Dad talked to me that night. Her expression broke completely. No, he told me to lock my door. Daniel looked alarmed now. Emily, listen to me carefully. Did you ever go downstairs after that? I opened my mouth to answer automatically, but then another image flashed through my head so suddenly it made my stomach twist. I was standing halfway down the staircase in darkness, looking into the kitchen. My mother crying. My father arguing with a man near the back door. The same tall silhouette I remembered earlier. I could not hear the words clearly anymore, only tension. Fear. My father kept saying one sentence over and over. She does not know anything. I squeezed my eyes shut hard. I was downstairs, I whispered. I saw them. My mother covered her mouth immediately. Daniel looked genuinely stunned. That cannot be right, he said quietly. Why? I asked. Neither of them answered. Then my mother finally whispered something that made every hair on my arms stand up. Because after that night, you forgot almost all of it. Silence swallowed the room again. I looked around my bedroom differently now. The old posters on the walls. The bookshelf. The same room where I had spent years sleeping beside a hidden camera without knowing why it was there. Suddenly I realized something else. The camera was not watching for intruders, I said slowly. Daniel turned toward me carefully. What do you mean? It was watching me. My mother immediately shook her head. No, but I could already see the truth all over her face. You said Dad was afraid I would remember something. Neither of them spoke. That is why the camera stayed in my room all these years, I continued. You were waiting to see if my memory came back. Tears streamed down my mother's face now because she knew I was right. Daniel looked away completely. The realization hit me harder than the camera itself ever had. Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every normal family moment after my father vanished had happened under surveillance because my own mother was terrified of what I might remember. Then another memory surfaced suddenly, and this one came with absolute clarity. My father standing near the basement door holding a small metal key in his hand. Looking directly at me. If they come back, he whispered, never let them open the basement. The moment I said those words out loud, everything changed between us. My mother stopped trying to calm me down. Daniel stopped pretending this was something manageable. The truth had finally reached the point where it could not stay buried anymore. Open the basement, I said. My mother shook her head immediately. No, Dad warned me about it. Emily, you do not understand. Then explain it. Her breathing became uneven again. Your father hid something down there before he vanished. Daniel spoke quietly. And if someone came back tonight after all these years, then whatever he hid may still be there. I looked between both of them in disbelief. You let me sleep in this house for 14 years knowing people might come back? My mother's eyes filled with tears again. I thought the danger was over. You installed a hidden camera in my room. Because your room was directly above the basement. That answer sent a chill through me so hard I could barely breathe. Suddenly every strange feeling I had ever ignored in that room came rushing back. The nights I thought I heard sounds beneath the floorboards. The moments my mother insisted on checking my room when I was away. The constant feeling that something in the house never fully relaxed. None of it had been in my imagination. Daniel stepped toward the hallway. We need to check the basement now. My mother looked horrified. Absolutely not. Someone already entered the house once tonight, he said. If they did not find what they wanted upstairs, they may come back. I stared at my mother carefully. You still have the key, do not you? She froze. That was all the answer I needed. Slowly, she reached beneath the collar of her robe and pulled out a thin silver chain from around her neck. Hanging beside her wedding ring was a small brass key. My stomach twisted. She had carried it all these years. Daniel noticed too. Linda, I promised him, she whispered. I promised I would never open it unless there was no other choice. Thunder rolled outside so loudly the windows shook. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then my mother finally closed her eyes and handed me the key. Her hand was trembling badly. If we do this, she whispered, everything changes. The basement door sat at the end of the downstairs hallway beside the laundry room. I had walked past it thousands of times growing up. Brown paint chipped near the bottom. Old brass lock. Completely ordinary. And somehow it terrified me more than anything else in the house. Daniel stood beside me while my mother remained several feet back like she physically could not get closer. I slid the key into the lock slowly. It stuck at first from years without use. Then it finally turned with a loud metallic click that echoed through the hallway. My heart started pounding immediately. The smell hit us first when I opened the door. Dust. Damp wood. Stale air untouched for years. Daniel aimed his flashlight downward. Narrow wooden stairs disappeared into darkness below. Stay close, he said quietly. We descended slowly. Every step creaked beneath our weight. The basement was larger than I remembered from childhood. Shelves lined the walls filled with old storage boxes, paint cans, tools covered in dust. But what caught my attention immediately was the far corner of the room. A workbench stood beneath a hanging light, and directly behind it was an entire section of wall that looked newer than the rest. Fresh drywall. Different paint color. Daniel noticed it too. That was not there before, he whispered. My mother stopped moving entirely behind us. No, I walked closer slowly, my pulse hammering harder with every step. The drywall had been cut open recently. Not destroyed. Carefully removed. Someone had already been here before us. Daniel crouched beside the opening and shined the flashlight inside the hidden space behind the wall. Empty shelves. Dust. One overturned metal lockbox sitting open with nothing inside. My mother made a broken sound behind me. They found it, she whispered. Then Daniel's flashlight landed on something taped to the back wall inside the hidden compartment. A yellowed envelope with one word written across the front in my father's handwriting. Emily. For a few seconds, nobody moved. I could hear the rain outside through the basement windows and the faint buzz of Daniel's flashlight as it pointed toward the envelope taped inside the hidden compartment. My name was written across the front in my father's handwriting so clearly that my chest physically hurt looking at it. I had not seen his handwriting in over a decade. My mother started crying quietly behind me. Not loud sobbing. Just exhausted tears from someone who had been carrying fear for too many years. Daniel carefully peeled the envelope away from the wall and handed it to me without saying a word. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. The paper felt old and stiff around the edges. I stared at my name for several seconds before finally opening it. Inside was a folded letter and a small cassette tape sealed in a plastic bag. I unfolded the paper first. Emily, if you are reading this, then it means two things happened. First, they finally came back. Second, your memory returned. I stopped breathing for a second after reading that line. My mother covered her mouth behind me. I continued reading while my pulse hammered inside my ears. I never wanted you involved in any of this. What I found at work was bigger than I understood at the time. There were people inside my company selling information illegally through private security contracts. Names, schedules, addresses. I copied evidence before they realized I knew. When they discovered the files were missing, they started watching our family. I looked up slowly at Daniel. His face had gone pale. You knew about this? I asked quietly. Not all of it, he admitted. I looked back down at the letter. I hid the original records somewhere they would never think to search. But there is something else you need to know. The night I disappeared, someone came to the house looking for the evidence. You saw more than your mother realizes. That is why I needed her to protect your memory until it was safe. My throat tightened painfully. Every strange feeling from my childhood suddenly connected together in ways I wished they never had. The camera. The lies. The basement. My mother had not been trying to spy on me. She had been terrified that if my memories returned too soon, whoever came that night might realize I remembered them. I kept reading. If Daniel is there with you, trust him. He tried to help me leave before it was too late. But if anyone else found this first, then you need to leave immediately. Do not stay in the house. They will keep searching until they find what I took. Then I reached the final lines of the letter and my entire body went cold. The evidence is not in the basement. It never was. I hid it somewhere only you would unknowingly protect. I frowned in confusion. Then I noticed my mother staring directly upward toward the ceiling above us. Toward my bedroom. Slowly, horribly, I understood. The camera had never been protecting the basement at all. It had been protecting something hidden in my room. Daniel realized it at the exact same moment. The bookshelf, he whispered. We ran upstairs immediately. My heart pounded harder with every step. The bedroom door still stood open from earlier. Rain drifted softly through the cracked window. Daniel rushed toward the bookshelf and started pulling books aside while I searched the back panel desperately. Then my fingers hit something loose behind the wooden frame near the bottom shelf. A hidden compartment. I pulled it open slowly. Inside was a small black hard drive wrapped in plastic. My mother gasped behind me. 14 years. The evidence had been hidden less than 3 feet from my bed the entire time. Then the lights in the house suddenly shut off all at once. Darkness swallowed the room instantly. Somewhere downstairs, the front door creaked open.